welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing another installment of what used to be known as Film Friday but is now being called Movie Monday. And this Movie Monday we are going to be talking about all the movies that you should be watching this springtime. All the movies that have all the spring vibes, all the spring colors, all the spring things. Now, my credentials for this is that, because obviously there are some movies that I feel like could be argued for spring or summer, but what differentiates them, in my opinion, is the kind of like childlike new beginnings, light colors, light topics vibe. Because summer's kind of more fun and adventurous, whereas spring, because it's a transitional season, it has a lot more lightness and childlikeness to it, in my opinion. So hence why a lot of these movies on the list are either literal kids movies or they're just like very like dainty, very kind, very cutesy. But I say, without further ado, we get on into it. First up is what I think is the most important pick of all, and that is Anne of Green Gables. Now, you could also watch Anne with an E on Netflix. However, personally, I think the 80s version is the way to go. As much as I love Annabeth, Megan Follows is literally the only Anne in my eyes. Like, I love her so much, and she is Anne to me. Like, literally is Anne. What categorizes this movie as a spring movie in my mind is, if you know anything about Anne of Green Gables, well, one, you would know that it's based off a book, which is, I think, technically considered children's literature adjacent. So it has that childlikeness to it because Anne gets brought into this new family in Green Gables, and Green Gables is like the definition of like the most beautiful rural town that you can envision in your mind right now. The flower fields, the beautiful farmland, the amazing, beautifully decorated farm houses. Like, it's literally the definition of like a perfect spring town. And as I said, it has that childlike themes with Anne kind of coming into age and also discovering herself in this very beautiful spring-esque setting. Highly recommend you go watch it if you have not. It's literally one of my favorites. It's a childlike classic for me because I grew up watching it. Go watch it. Next up is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Emma. This is also based off a book. There are two adaptations. Actually, I'm kidding. There's multiple adaptations. However, the two that are the most popular, I should say, is the 1996 version with Gwyneth Paltrow. I think that's like the most popular, but in recent years, the 2020 version one has become more popular because if you even know anything about that movie, you would know it is like one of the most aesthetically pleasing movies you will ever watch in your life. There's even like this like insert like title card where it says spring. So literally, need I say more? But specifically the 2020 version, all pastels, so aesthetically pleasing. Like, there's literally a picnic scene where they're having a picnic out in this beautiful landscape. There's just so much imagery that in my mind is just like spring. Like, it's just so beautiful and dainty and wonderful. And there is nothing more spring-esque than love. And so it just has that very beautiful period piece romance vibe that's very just light and gorgeous, and I feel like that in itself is just very spring. And speaking of period pieces, we have another one of my favorite movies, which is Ever After. Ever After is a Cinderella adaptation, but it is very like, it has like the very historically accurate costume time period vibes. The whole entire movie, this is the best way I can describe it. In Descendants 1, how like there's always those like dreamy filters over everything, and it's just very like princessy and just very dreamy and beautiful. That's what Ever After is, but the entire movie is just gorgeous. And the score, oh my gosh, don't even get me started on the score for, and Emma, same thing too. The score for Emma is amazing. But literally, the music, the acting, the literal plot, which is Cinderella, which obviously in itself is going to be like dreamy, childlike, spring-esque. Then there's this one specific scene that is just very spring in my opinion, and it is when she's like backstroking in this lake, and you just have the beautiful score just like playing in the background as she's just like swimming and just feeling free. And there is nothing more to me that says spring than that scene. Like, it's just so beautiful. And also, like, I don't know what it is about spring, but there's something about it that, and I think it's probably because it's a season of new beginnings, that feels so artistic. And literally in this film is Leonardo da Vinci. Like, he literally is in the film because there's a painting that he paints of Cinderella, which her real name in the movie is Danielle. But he paints a picture of her, and that's kind of one of the things that like you see in the start of the movie. And like, it's just, the whole movie itself is just so dreamy and artsy. As I said, I feel like those two things just scream spring to me. Now, in addition to Ever After, there is another classic fairy tale live action adaptation that I think is perfectly spring vibes, and that is the 2003 live action Peter Pan. Now, I know for a fact it was a universal experience all around the world for everyone to immediately fall in love with Jeremy Sumter in this movie. Guilty! Like, literally, I was deeply in love with that man. But beyond that, I desperately wanted to be Wendy. Okay, I'm even kind of channeling her a little bit in the white fluffy blouse vibes that are similar to her nightgown. But once again, the magical, artistic, fairy tale-esque-ness of this film just screams spring. I know there are going to be some people that argue that it's a little bit more summer vibes, but I personally think it is spring vibes. The scene specifically that makes me feel like it's spring vibes is the scene where they're like dancing in the air with the pixies. I don't know what about that scene just like makes me want to frolic in a flower field with fairies. I don't know, okay? But something about that is just like, that's spring. That's spring to me. And if you have somehow not watched the 2003 Peter Pan, you need to literally stop watching this video right now, like it, save it, and go watch it and come back, okay? Because it is a cinematic masterpiece. Because that was a core memory of my childhood, okay? You need to watch it. Now we're gonna mix it up a little bit, slightly, with a kind of niche pick, I guess, and that is Frog and Toad Together. I'm pretty sure this is the one that I'm like thinking of and remembering from my childhood, but it's essentially like a claymation animation Frog and Toad of the picture books. And I used to watch this in elementary school on VHS on those days where they would roll out the TV cart and then just like play you stuff because they didn't want to teach. That's one of the things that we watched, was Frog and Toad. And nothing says spring more than Frog and Toad. In fact, I probably should have led with this one because literally it like Frog and Toad is like one of the things I immediately think of visually when I think of spring. Because one, it's about a frog and a toad, okay? There's nothing more spring-like than a frog and a toad. But specifically, my favorite is the cookies one, where they're like trying to practice willpower and like putting the cookies in the box and then wrapping the string around the box, and that, oh my gosh, once again, a core memory from my childhood. I not only had the picture book, but as I said, I watched this on VHS because it was literally my favorite thing, because they're so cute. But if you didn't grow up with Frog and Toad, I'm so sorry. This is now your time to become a Frog and Toad fan and go and watch it because it's so adorable. I'm sure you probably could find it on YouTube or something because it's like old media, but either way, it may be at your library, your local library. Either way, I highly recommend you check it out because it is so cutesy and so fun. Next up, we have a Studio Ghibli or Ghibli. I still do not remember which way it's pronounced. But anyways, we have The Wind Rises. Now, this is about to be an unpopular opinion, but The Wind Rises is my favorite Studio Ghibli film of all time. I love this film so much. Howl's Moving Castle, very close second, but this one is my favorite. And this, I think, is one of the most spring out of all the Studio Ghibli films. And now, once again, there are going to be some people that argue that it's summer, but I think it's more spring. Something about the aviation and flying over beautiful fields of grass and all this stuff is just very spring. And also the cover, which is the scene of obviously the main girl like painting just on a hill. Like, so many little pieces of imagery that is so spring, especially when it starts raining as she's painting. And then like the two main characters, like that's one of their little like cute moments. Also, I don't know why, but like paper airplanes are very spring to me, opposed to summer. And if you've seen the movie, you know the scene, you know the cutesy little scene with the paper airplanes. Literally, go watch The Wind Rises because it's so cutesy. And not to mention, I think most Studio Ghibli films are very pastel and very like spring color palettes, but especially this film because it's a lot of blues, a lot of greens, and I don't know, I just once again feel that it's very spring-esque. Another Ghibli film, I've probably said it both ways in this video, that I recommend for the spring is My Neighbor Totoro. I know that's a very basic recommendation and thing to add to this video, but it's facts, okay? Because literally, it is the definition of childlike wonder. Literally, it follows two sisters, and one of them, like, literally follows this creature and, like, gets lost in this, like, little land, okay? That's the definition of childlike wonder, okay? And it's so spring to me. Like, just like her little times in the woods with Totoro, and even, like, the scene, the iconic scene where they're standing at the bus stop and it's raining, because rain is spring, duh. Like, it's just, and also, they move into a new house at the beginning of the movie, and like, spring cleaning, duh, and they even literally have to clean, like, all the soot sprites. Those guys, okay, they literally have to, like, try and, like, get them out. So, like, once again, that's very spring, to be moving into a new house and cleaning it. I mean, come on. It's one of the most iconic out of his filmography for a reason. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. Now we're going to be traveling into Disney, and this should come to no surprise to most people, but Alice in Wonderland. Now, I personally prefer the live action version of Alice in Wonderland over the animated version, but I do love both because I was in fact the Queen of Hearts in middle school. So me and Alice in Wonderland, we go way back. But, I mean, they're singing flowers and mushrooms and literally all those things. And even in the very beginning, she's like sitting on a tree and then Dinah is like laying in like a bed of flowers. Like, the imagery there is just very, very spring to me. And once again, Alice is a child, at least in the original. She's a child and she has that childlike wonder. That's why she follows the White Rabbit. And also White Rabbit. Literally Easter, okay? So you cannot get more spring than Alice in Wonderland. Now, this one absolutely had to be on the list because if you even meet me for like, I don't know, 5 seconds of summer, oh, there goes my other obsession. But if you literally have a conversation, at least about films with me for like a very short period of time, Wes Anderson is going to come up at some point because I have literally seen every single one of his films. I'm obsessed with his work. I don't care about the critique of like, oh, his movies are the same. I don't care, okay? I love how his films feel like a piece of art. The symmetry, the cinematography, the color schemes, the set design, everything about it I love. So naturally, I have to have Moonrise Kingdom on here. Now, I think technically the movie takes place during summer, but once again, something about it feels a little bit more spring to me because literally in the movie is a summer camp. So I know I'm gonna get a lot of people that disagree and say, no, it's a summer movie because there's the Boy Scouts, like, at camp or whatever. But, like, once again, it has that lightness, that childlikeness of, like, having a little crush and having a pen pal. That's also, weirdly, having a pen pal also feels very spring to me. Like a handwritten note, very spring. With, like, a little, like, postage stamp or something, very spring. I think the color palette is one of the main contributors to me feeling like this is more spring because it has that pink and that yellow and that light blue, which that color palette alone I feel is very, very of spring. Now this next one is, I guess, more of a moody side to spring, but because it's like a rainy Paris artsy setting, I feel like it's like very much that vibe, and that is Midnight in Paris. This actually was my favorite film for like a good chunk of time because fun fact, the first ever career I ever wanted when I was a little kid was to be an artist, and so I have always had a deep love and appreciation for like art, like going into a museum and seeing like paintings and all this stuff. Like I love that. And Midnight in Paris is essentially Owen Wilson's character. He is walking around one night and then like gets sent back in time, the 1920s. He gets sent back there and like meets all of these iconic artists, musician, like all these things from that time period in Paris. And it's so cool. It has that kind of like rainy nighttime Paris vibe, but then like when he's in like the real world, like in his current time, they're seen at like vineyards and all this stuff. And once again, I feel like you have a lot of that greenery and like all that stuff that just kind of like screams spring. Highly recommend you watch it. I think it's the most digestible Woody Allen film, but I'm telling you though, Midnight in Paris, an amazing pick. Now we're coming down to our last two picks. I'm leaving my favorite for last, but this is like a close second. And that is, and it should come to nobody's surprise, Pride and Prejudice. I don't think I really need to explain myself here because if you literally press play, the first thing you hear is birds chirping, and then you see a beautiful sun and grass in a field, and she's walking while reading. There is nothing more spring than that. Argue with a wall, okay? And also there's something very light and beautiful and spring-like about the score as well. And just like, once again, it is a period piece romance, and period piece romances, I don't know, just get me in the mood for spring. I don't know what to tell you. If someone in your life hasn't told you to watch Pride and Prejudice yet, and you haven't watched Pride and Prejudice yet, let me be that person. Go watch Pride and Prejudice! If you really want to know the lore and like have it be book accurate, because this is also based off a Jane Austen novel, then definitely go watch the BBC version, but it's like super long. So if you're like, I ain't got much time, go watch the one with Keira Knightley in it, okay? Because that one is also, and it's also directed by Joe Wright, and so the cinematography is just astronomically amazing and beautiful, so go watch it. And then the last on my list, because it's my favorites, and I think it is the definition of spring, and that is, and don't laugh, okay, Tinkerbell and the Great Fairy Rescue. Literally, the beginning of the movie is them prepping for spring. Because if you don't know Tinkerbell lore, the fairies are the one who change all the seasons. And so literally, the beginning of the movie is them prepping for spring. Or changing to summer. Something like that. The only reason I question that is because I'm pretty sure the beginning of that movie is the one that has the song where it's like, summer's just begun. So I don't know. But anyways, literally, the setting is a small little cottage in the English countryside, okay? And there's this little adorable little girl who leaves out fairy houses because she loves fairies and she believes that they're real, but her dad is like, nuh-uh. But literally it's so cute. Like it's the whole like fairy and human relationship vibe, but then because it's set in the spring, like it has the rain, it has like the fields with the beautiful greenery and like flowers, and there's like even a tea party scene, okay? Like everything about it. And also it was a huge part of my childhood because I was like, Tinkerbell's, no, hold on, actually let me show you something. I literally have the music box from the first movie, and it still works. Literally, I was a Tinkerbell #1 fan. And in fact, I'm gonna say when, because I'm just gonna make it happen. But when I go to Tokyo Disneyland Sea someday and I ride the Tinkerbell buggy ride thingy that they have in Fantasy Springs, if you see me crying, you know you didn't. Because literally Tinkerbell is like one of the biggest parts of my childhood, and I love it so much and hold it so near and dear to my heart. But anyways, go watch Tinkerbell and the Great Fairy Rescue. Now those are all the movies I have that you should watch during spring. I feel like there's probably a couple other things I could probably add to this list, and if I think of anything else, I'll definitely add it to my Letterboxd list, which will be linked down below. Otherwise, I hope you all are able to celebrate spring with one of these amazing films. And by the time that this is uploaded, it'll be like a couple days away from the first day of spring. So happy first day of spring. I also plan on doing a albums or like songs you should listen to this spring. So look out for that video. Otherwise, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more film and music related content, make sure to subscribe down below. My Letterboxd, music board, all the things will always be linked down in the description if you'd like to follow me on there. Otherwise, thank you for joining me for yet another Movie Monday. And I'll see you all in the next one, because that's all, folks.